you ready to do that? Early voting is already underway here in Nevada, starting today, and we need everyone, every neighbor, every friend, every family member to get out and to vote early. You don't have to wait to Election Day. You can make your voice heard right now, because trust me, this election is about more than who sits in the Oval Office. It's about what kind of future that we want for ourselves, for our families, and for generations to come. Nevada has always been a battleground where elections are won or lost by just a few thousand votes. That means that each and every one of us can make a difference. Now, our Vice President, Kamala Harris, has fought for policies that directly impact our communities, fighting to lower health care costs, expanding economic opportunities, and ensuring that our families have the resources to not just get ahead, but to thrive. And what we're up against is extremely dangerous, however. Things like Trump's Project 2025, which is a radical plan that would turn back the clock on so many of the rights and protections that we fought for and won. But we're not going back. We're going forward. Trump Donald Trump and the radical Republicans supporting him threaten everything from access to affordable housing to our right to organize in the workplace, and they're especially dangerous for men of color and Nevada's working families. They would make it harder for us to have access to quality jobs. They would undermine our ability to build wealth, and they would gut the very social safety nets that keep our families afloat. They would put the American dream out of reach for so many families that we fought to bring closer to it. But here's the good news. We have the power to stop it. We have the power to stop it. By turning out in record numbers, by voting early, by electing leaders like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, re-electing Jackie Rosen to the United States Senate, winning back the House of Representatives and making Hakeem Jeffries the next Speaker of the House. We can ensure that Nevada remains a place where every person, regardless of race, background, or income, has the opportunity to succeed. Kamala Harris has always fought for us. She's fought for criminal justice reform, for economic opportunity, and yes, for affordable housing and health care. She's fought to keep families together and to make sure that every child, no matter their zip code, has the chance to succeed. But right now, she can't do this alone. She needs all of us to fight for her. So Nevada, now is the time. Let's rise to the occasion. Let's get out and vote early. Let's protect our future. Let's reject the dangerous path of Project 2025 and choose a path of progress, justice, and opportunity, because together we can make sure that Nevada and America continue to move forward. But it all starts with us. It starts with you, and it starts with your vote. Are you ready to vote? Yeah! Are you ready to win? Yeah! Because when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. And when we vote, we win. So let's get out there and show people how we win.
please welcome the Congresswoman from the 3rd District, Susie Lee.
Beautiful out there. Are you ready to win? I'm Congresswoman Susie Lee. I represent the 4th Congressional District, and I'll tell you what, I'm ready to put Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the White House. Are you? I'm ready to re-elect Jackie Rosen to the Senate. Are you? And I'm ready to re-elect Stephen Horsford, Dina Titus, and me, and to give Hakeem Jeffries a gavel. Are you? And of course, we cannot forget about the Democrats in our Assembly, in our Senate. We have an incredible state legislature. Are we ready to make that another Democratic supermajority? It's go time, people. We got 16 days. It is voting right now. And I am so excited to welcome President Obama back to the Silver State. You know, now that Obama's in the House, I think we should take a little stroll down memory lane. When Obama came into the White House, the first thing he had to do was rescue our economy after a Republican White House. And he did it, and he reduced the deficit. Does that sound familiar? Because when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris got into the White House, they had to also rescue our economy. Because Trump could not figure out how to help millions of Americans who were sick or killed or out of work because of COVID. In fact, he told people to inject bleach. But we know who got Americans back on their feet. It was Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the Democrats in the House and the Senate. Now, President Obama, with the help of the great Senator Harry Reid, let's give it up for Harry Reid, helped kickstart our clean energy economy, which has something that this great state has benefited from. Tens of thousands of good-paying union jobs. Let's give it up for the union. And billions of dollars of investment. Then we joined the Paris Climate Accord. Well, guess who denied climate change and pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord? That's right, Trump did that. And that's why we say we need Kamala. Can I hear it? We need Kamala. Remember the Affordable Care Act? Millions of people now have health care, saving millions of lives. That was Obama and Reid and Pelosi and the Democrats who got that done. And this is personal for me. My mother and father had high blood pressure, and they couldn't afford, this was before the Affordable Care Act, and they couldn't afford health insurance. And my mom had a heart attack before she qualified for Medicare. And they almost lost their home. And the Affordable Care Act would have changed their lives, and it has changed so many people's lives in this country because getting sick should not be a cause for bankruptcy. But let's go back to memory lane here. Guess who tried to repeal the Affordable Care Act about 30 times? That's right, Trump did it. And that's why we say we need Kamala. Obama protected dreamers. Where's Astrid Silva in the house? But guess who repealed DACA? And that's why we say, and I'm not even going to talk about taking babies away from their parents. We're not even going to go there. It was Obama who protected LGBTQ Americans from employment discrimination. Guess who reversed that? We're not even going to say his name, but what we are going to say is that's why we need Kamala. Can I hear from the women in the house? It was President Obama that signed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act because we should be paid the same amount for the same work. And guess who overturned a rule that would require companies to report what they pay people by race and gender? And that's why we say, now, after overturning Roe v. Wade, this is great. I don't even know what this means. Trump said he's the father of IVF. I mean, what the hell does that mean? I don't even get that. What he should be saying is that he's the father of women dying on operating tables. He's the father of rape victims having their rapist babies. He's the father of banning IVF and contraception because we know that is the next step. So my point is this. We don't need to imagine what another presidency of that fake, tan, incomprehensible, lying, cheating, orange comb-over, unfit for office, convicted felon would be like. We saw it once and we don't need to see it again. What do we need? Now listen, we don't need to imagine it because they have a plan. It's in black and white. It's called Project 2025. Written by the Heritage Foundation, and guess who worked at the Heritage Foundation for 25 years? My opponent, Drew Johnson. But they're like, I've never even read the book. I've never even read it. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, listen, their connections to Project 2025 couldn't be clearer. And the bottom line is that Donald Trump, Drew Johnson, and the rest of the extremists like Sam Brown do not represent you. We saw it before, and now it's in black and white, and they plan to do it again. But we're saying we're not going back. We're not going back. We're not going back. But where are we going? Where are we going? We're going forward. That's right, we're going forward with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. America's new way forward with Kamala Harris is about lowering housing costs, protecting Social Security and Medicare, protecting the Affordable Care Act, protecting women's freedom, innovating small businesses, getting veterans the care they need, ensuring that seniors can retire in their homes and with dignity, and of course, supporting the men and women of labor who have built the middle class in this country. Give it up. Now listen, we're a gambling state, all right? But winning is not going to happen by rolling the dice. If we want to make this dream a reality, we got to work for it, okay? Are you ready? Can we stand up to Trump and those faithful followers? Are we ready to protect a woman's right to make her own decisions? And are we ready, Nevada, because it's going to happen here. It always does. We're going to make history. Are you ready to make history by electing the first woman president? But we can't do it without outworking, out-organizing, and out-voting. Voting is on now. Election day is not November 5th. Election day is now. Every person you know, just get them out to vote. Get them, fill it out, go to early voting. Let's get it done. Are you ready to do this? All right, let's go, Nevada!
Please welcome the Congresswoman from the 1st District, Dina Titus.
Good-looking crowd, I must say. And who's that in those purple shirts? Is that SEIU? Labor is in the house. And how exciting is it to be here on the first day of voting with President Barack Obama? It just doesn't get any better than that. And you know what they're saying is that people were lined up around the corner to vote early. So, and I know a lot of you have already voted early, so thank you for that. Oh, I hope some of you voted for Dina Titus. Well, thank you. Well, people are wanting to vote early because they know what's at stake. They know what will happen if they don't vote. They want to vote for somebody who believes in the middle class, who's a child of immigrants and knows the challenges they face, who knows that unions built this country. That's right. They want to vote for somebody who stands up for investments in infrastructure and renewable energy that create those good jobs that we need. And someone who will expand health care put in place in the Affordable Care Act by the person who's here with us tonight, Barack Obama. I was in Congress when that passed. I proudly voted for it, and I voted 60 times against their attempts to overturn it, and I proudly call it Obamacare. But you all know all that, or you wouldn't be here. So let me just put it to you simply. If we don't vote, Trump wins, and we're done. That's it. Simple fact. Think about it. Women's rights, done. LGBT, human rights, civil rights, done. Clean water, clean energy, clean air, done. Environmental protections across the board, done. This is what we are facing if we don't vote and Trump wins, we're done. You know, also collective bargaining, done. NATO, done. Child care, done. Let's let the grannies take care of it. Isn't that what old crazy ass Vance said? And Obamacare will be done. Also, democracy will be done. Trump has said, I want to be a dictator on the very first day. And you know what? The Supreme Court he appointed most of will said, okay, we'll give you immunity. Do whatever you want. So democracy will be done. Are we going to let that happen? No. So here's the truth, and I'm not exaggerating one bit. I think you'll agree. Trump is a liar and a womanizer. Trump is a tax cheat and a draft dodger. He's also a bankrupt businessman and a convicted felon. What kind of person is that to be electing president? Is that what you want? The thought of it is just incredible. Now listen to this. If you are sick and you need a doctor, you want Trump to be the one to take care of you? If you're in trouble and you need a lawyer, you want Trump to go into court for you? No. If your car breaks down, you think Trump would make a very good mechanic? No. If you need a little salvation, are you going to Trump thinking he'd be a priest? No. And here's one. If you got children in school, do you want Trump to be their teacher? No. So why the hell would we want him to be president? No. And besides all that, he's a terrible dancer. These folks are a lot better dancers than this. Oh my God. The man has no soul and no rhythm. He's got to go. But that's why we need to elect Vice President Kamala Harris. She stands for the things that we believe in. She cares about us, not just herself. She's someone we can trust and be proud of to have in the White House as our president, like Joe Biden and Barack Obama. So I say to all of you, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but we got to get out there, get in the streets, and get this done. And I say, let's just rock and roll and push him off the dance floor for good.
Please welcome the first Vice Chair of the Nevada State Democratic Party, Francisco Morales.
Hello and welcome. Muy buenas tardes. It's an honor for me to be here among so many community leaders as we are about to welcome the 44th President of the United States. My name is Francisco Morales. I'm an immigrant. I'm a local landlord. I'm an attorney. And I came to this country when I was 5 years old from Michoacan, Mexico. My family came here. We didn't speak a word of English. We didn't have much to our name, but my parents had a hope, a dream that their 4 sons, 5 daughters, family of 9 could achieve their American dream. Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Francisco Morales, soy un inmigrante, un abogado aquí de Nevada. Llegué con mi familia de Michoacán, México, cuando tenía 5 años. Mucha gente de Michoacán aquí, ¿verdad? Cuando llegamos a este país no teníamos nada, no hablábamos inglés, pero mis padres tenían la esperanza de que un día sus hijos pudieran lograr el sueño americano en este país. Sí se puede y sí se pudo. You know, but chasing this American dream did not come without challenges. I saw my family struggle to pay the bills, put food on the table, oftentimes pay rent. We constantly face the threat of eviction. And time again, I've seen politicians promise that they're going to reduce costs, that they're going to bring the cost of living down and help the middle class. Donald Trump made this promise, but all he did and all he gave us was a failed tax plan that only benefited the billionaires of this class while turning his back on the middle class. He left out more than 70,000 Nevadans from gaining overtime protections, resulting in $10 million in lost wages in 2020 alone. And of course, we all know that his Project 2025 agenda is even worse. His economic agenda will raise taxes on the middle class by nearly $4,000 a year. He wants to slash earned benefits like Social Security and Medicare that my parents rely on and that so many Nevadans rely on. And he again just wants to provide benefits, more economic tax cuts to the billionaire donors. Look, Donald Trump is out to benefit Donald Trump. But he's also recruited lots of extreme MAGA allies like Sam Brown. But look, the good thing is that Vice President Harris and Tim Walz, they have a new vision forward. One that's going to cut costs for middle-class Americans, make it easier to afford a home and pay rent, and ensure that everyone has an opportunity not just to get by, but to actually get ahead. They're proposing to give a $25,000 down payment assistance so that folks could buy their first home and start building generational wealth and start building that American dream that we all seek. She wants to provide tax incentives so that we can start more small businesses, and she wants to cut red tape so that we can actually start building more homes and actually tackle the housing crisis. Look, these are real, tangible solutions for Nevadans that are going to reject and refuse to accept Trump's Project 2025 agenda. So for my community, for my family, so that more families like mine could actually have a fair shot at achieving their American dream, I am so proud that this morning I voted for Vice President Harris, Governor Tim Walz, Senator Jackie Rosen, and Democrats up and down the ballot. But let me just say this. Voting, we all got to vote early. Turn in your mail ballots, vote in early. But when you do so, sign up for a canvassing shift, make a phone call, call your neighbors, call your family, call everybody that you know so that we can together make the right decision in this election. Because we know que cuando votamos, ganamos. When we vote, we win. And now I'm so proud to introduce a champion of the working class, a champion of getting things done in the Senate, somebody who is incredibly effective at delivering for Nevada, Senator Jackie Rosen.
Oh man, this is a good looking bunch. SEIU in the
what a night. Are you ready to vote? Anybody vote already? Yes, absolutely. I'm telling you, we got 17 days. Actually, well, it's after 6 p.m., so maybe about 16 days left now. And we have to make every single day count. And we're going to do that, aren't we? Because you know what? We're the battle-born state. Battle-born, battleground, battle-tested on the road to the White House, and holding our Democratic Senate majority runs right through where? Nevada. Nevada. And so with your help, we're going to send Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to where? The White House in November. And you saw my friends. We're going to re-elect Susie, Stephen, and Dina to where? To the House. We're going to send them back. And what else are we going to do? You're going to help me protect Nevada's Senate seat from being taken down by a MAGA extreme candidate called who? Sam Brown. Because when we win, we're going to keep making progress on the issues that matter. More housing that regular people can afford. Better child care options for working families. Lower prescription drug costs for everyone. For everyone. That's what we're fighting for. That's what you're fighting for. That's why this election is so important. And tonight, I guess you're waiting. We got a little bit of a special guest with us. Anybody know who that is, right? He's someone who knows a thing or two about winning elections. He won a couple of them right here. President Barack Obama. And I got to tell you, I am honored because in Washington, the office that I have right now is President Obama's former Senate office. So I want to thank him for coming back to Las Vegas time and time again to help us get out the vote and mobilize, organize, and get us excited for the next 16 days. Nevada vote, Ayuna, thank you. And President Obama, he understands what's at stake, and he's stepping up, like he always has, to protect our rights, to protect our democracy. Just like he helped protect the health of millions of Americans by passing and signing the Affordable Care Act. You know, winning elections isn't just about beating the other side on November 5th, although we have to do that, for sure. But it's really about the progress we can deliver for the American people if we elect the right leaders. And so, thanks to the Affordable Care Act, hundreds of thousands of Nevadans have been able to get better access to health care that's high quality, that's more affordable, with guaranteed protections for pre-existing conditions. It matters. It matters. I can tell you my opponent wants to take that away, but in the Senate, what we've done is we fought to protect and strengthen the ACA so that we can keep lowering costs for the middle class. And like I said, can you imagine all these years later, MAGA Republicans like Sam Brown and Donald Trump, they're still pushing to gut the Affordable Care Act. They're still pushing it. So, yeah, think about what that would do. Yeah, think about what that would do to you if there was no Affordable Care Act. Think about the fact that you could be denied health care for pre-existing condition. Think about health care prices skyrocketing. Think about maybe someone in your family has asthma, they're diabetic, they have cancer. You've doomed them to a lifetime of unattainable insurance. And it's going to kick young people off their parents' insurance plans once again. Well, and I got an opponent, Sam Brown, who just doesn't care. He just doesn't care. He actually wants to take it a step further by repealing the law that's capping the cost of insulin for $35 a month and giving Medicare the power to negotiate drug costs for our seniors. He wants to repeal it. He wants to repeal it. He called it a big loss for the American people that our seniors, the people who took care of us, our parents and grandparents,
finally get a better price for life-saving medication, a big loss for the American people. I took care of my parents and in-laws as they aged. I wanted to make sure they had everything I could give them. And so for Sam Brown, it's just not disqualifying. It's plain wrong. And so Nevadans have an opportunity starting today with early voting, which everybody did, which you're going to do. You're going to chart a different path for our state, a different path, a path forward for our families, for our children. We can elect leaders that are going to protect your health care, lower drug costs, leaders that are going to work together to fix our broken immigration system. We're going to secure our border, ensure a pathway to citizenship for our dreamers, and instead of using all of this as a political football. So we need leaders that are going to reach across the aisle, try to find bipartisan solutions and common ground instead of sowing division and gridlock. Leaders that are going to defend our reproductive freedom from anti-abortion extremists like Sam Brown who want to take women's rights away. We're not going to let them. We're not going back. We're not going back. That's right. So, what are we going to do to go forward? Vote. So what's it going to be? All hands on deck. Everybody got your gym shoes on? Everybody got your going? Get your running shoes on. Get moving, because we're going to organize, mobilize, and get out the vote. I'm going to tell everyone, go to rosenfornevada.com, go to iwillvote.com, tell everybody you know that they have to get out and vote like their life depended on it, because it does. Because it does. I know you can text Jackie to 30508. You can help us, too. I know you're all involved, but if you know anybody that isn't, tell them we need them to get busy. Get busy. So, together with all of you, I look out here today and I see so many friends from so many places, and I am proud to be a Nevadan. I am proud to stand with all of you every day, with your heart, with our community, with how we feel about Nevada and what we hope for our future. We're voting for our future, and we're going to send Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to the White House. And now, I am so honored. It is such a privilege for me to introduce, well, the person that used to hold my office. And someone that we all know and love, our 44th President of the United States, President Barack Obama.
In Nevada. It is good to be back at Cheyenne High School. I've been here so many times over the years, it feels like I should get a diploma. I feel like a desert shield. Now, I love you back. I do. That's why I keep coming back. But I am here today for a very important reason, and that is to make sure not just that you vote, but everybody you know votes. For your members of Congress, Stephen Horsford and Dina Titus and Susie Lee. For your Senator Jackie Rosen. And for the next President of the United States, Kamala Harris. already heard from Jackie and some other speakers, but I'm going to reiterate this. We just got to drum this home. Here in Nevada, voting has already started. You can vote early by mail, or you can vote in person. You can still register to vote at any early vote center in your county. Just go to iwillvote.com/NV, iwillvote.com/NV, and you can find a vote center or a ballot drop box near you. And then help your friends and family make a plan to vote. Because together we have a chance to choose a new generation of leadership in this country and start building a better, stronger, fair, more equal, more hopeful America. Now, but before I start digging in, it's kind of hot in here. So I want everybody to bend their knees a little bit if you're standing. You know, if you got a little water, take a sip. You know, I don't want anybody falling out. You'll be okay, but it's embarrassing. All right? So keep those knees bent a little bit. Every once in a while, move around. Don't stand too stiff. All right. Now that we've gotten that taken care of, the preliminaries. We know this election's going to be tight. And it's going to be tight because a lot of Americans are still struggling. You know, as a country, we've been through a lot over these last few years. You think about it. We had a historic pandemic that wreaked havoc on communities, on businesses. And then the disruptions from the pandemic caused price hikes. And that put a strain on family budgets. And so people started feeling like no matter how hard they ran, they were kind of treading water. And they started worrying, will my kid have the same kind of future I had? So I get why people are looking to shake things up. It's understandable. I understand it. What I cannot understand is why anybody would think that Donald Trump will shake things up in a way that is good for you. Because there's absolutely no evidence that this man thinks about anybody but himself. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. Donald Trump is a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems since he rode down that golden escalator 9 years ago. I mean, he's complaining, he's griping, and when he's not complaining, he's trying to sell you stuff. He's trying to sell you some gold sneakers. He was trying to sell you a $100,000 watch. Supposed to be Swiss made, but nobody in Switzerland really knows where it got made. He's trying to sell you a Trump Bible. Think about that. This is the Word of God. Gideon gives it out for free. He wants to sell you Word of God, Donald Trump edition. He's got his name right there next to Matthew and Luke. And by the way, I'll give you one guess where those Bibles are made. In China. Yeah, this is Mr. Tough Guy on China, except when he can make a few bucks. Then he's all like, ain't nothing wrong with that. You cannot make this stuff up. You can't make it up. If this was an SNL skit, you'd be all like, well, that's, come on. That's over the top. No, he's doing these things. And the reason he's doing it is because all he cares about is his ego and his money and his status. He's not thinking about you. He sees power as nothing more than a means to his ends. He wants the middle class to pay the price for another huge tax cut to help mostly him and his country club buddies. He doesn't care if he costs more women their reproductive freedoms because it won't affect his life. Most of all, Donald Trump wants you to think that this country is hopelessly divided between us and them, and between the quote-unquote real Americans who obviously support him and anybody who doesn't, because having people divided and angry and resentful and full of grievance, that boosts his chances of being elected. That's why he does it. Do not boo. Vote. Listen, I was backstage here and I was hearing y'all boo. Let me tell you something. Cannot anybody hear your boos? You know what they hear? Your vote. They hear your vote. They don't hear your boos. Vote. Now, so look, I like that. Go ahead. Now, I've spoken about Donald Trump's intentions, what his concerns are. They are not you. But there's another concern that I have about Donald Trump, which is his competence. Have you seen him lately? I mean, he is out there, he's giving these 2.5-hour speeches, just a word salad. You don't know what he's saying. You don't, at any given moment. He held a town hall meeting where, now the point of a town hall meeting, I've had like maybe 1,000 of them. The point is you meet with people and you answer their questions. He just stopped. He's all like, I don't feel like taking questions anymore. And then we're just going, he just played music for half an hour. Just swayed to Ave Maria and YMCA. I mean, imagine if Jackie or I did that. Now, our playlist might be better. But it is strange behavior. He called himself the father of IVF. I have no idea what that means. And neither do you. He said January 6th was a day of love. Said it. Boom, boom. Vote. Said it was a day of love. I mean, you know, made it sound like it was Coachella. So, you would be worried if your grandpa started acting like this. You would. I mean, right? You'd like call up your brother, your cousin or something and be like, hey, have you seen Grandpa lately? What are we going to do? But this is coming from somebody who wants unchecked power. Wants the most powerful office on earth with the nuclear codes and all that. Now, the point is we do not need to see what an older, loonier Donald Trump looks like with no guardrails. America's ready to turn the page. We're ready for a better story. Arizona, we are ready for a President Kamala Harris. That's what we want. And the good news is that Kamala Harris is ready for the job. I mean, this is a leader who has spent her entire life fighting on behalf of people who need a champion. Somebody raised in the middle class, worked at McDonald's while she was in college just to pay her expenses. Somebody who believes in the values that built this country. And she is as prepared for the job as any nominee for president has ever been. That's who Kamala is. And in the White House, she will have an outstanding partner in Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. I love that guy. Tim's a veteran. He's a teacher. He is a football coach. He's a hunter. Been a great governor. Working with Democrats and Republicans to get stuff done. And I just found out he can take vintage trucks apart and put them back together again. Now imagine that. You think Donald Trump can do that? Do you think Donald Trump's ever changed a tire in his life? Huh. You know, if he gets a flat tire, he calls Jeeves. Jeeves, change that tire. The point is, if you elect Kamala and Tim, they won't be focused on their problems. They're going to be focused on your problems. They understand too many folks here in Nevada and across the country are struggling to pay the bills. And listen, wages actually are steadily growing, and inflation is finally slowing. But for a lot of folks, the price of everything from health care to housing to groceries, it's still too high. It hurts. The question is, who's actually going to do something about it? Yeah, I know you know the answer, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Somebody's all like, I know. Donald Trump's plan is to give another massive tax cut to billionaires and big corporations. Now, wait, hold on. Some people hear that because I'm having conversations with folks. They're all like, well, I don't know, I know Trump's kind of crazy, but I remember the economy when he first came into office. I remember those first 2 years were pretty good. Yeah, it was good because it was my economy. Some of y'all remember what it was like in Nevada when I came into office. The worst financial crisis in history. The housing market collapsed here in Nevada. You remember that? Boarded up homes everywhere. Folks' mortgages underwater. I spent 8 years cleaning up that mess that the Republicans had left me. And then I handed over to Donald Trump 75 straight months of job growth. And all he did with it was give a tax cut to the people who didn't need it, drove up the deficit in the process, and now he wants to do it all over again. So, if you're talking to somebody, and y'all know somebody who's all like, well, I don't know, I remember Trump, the economy seems, that was pretty good. You remind them, it wasn't good because of anything he did. So that's point number one. Point number two, when it comes to health care, Donald Trump has got one answer. He wants to end the Affordable Care Act. He doesn't even really know what the Affordable Care Act is or how it works. He just knows I did it. No, that's the truth. A couple weeks ago, his running mate had the nerve, the chutzpah, to say Donald Trump, quote, salvaged the Affordable Care Act. There are a bunch of folks from Congress here. Let me tell you, he spent his entire presidency trying to tear it down. And he couldn't even do that right. And now, 8 years after he was elected, y'all saw this, he was at the debate. So the moderators asked a pretty reasonable question. It's like, well, you always say you want to, and the Affordable Care Act, what are you going to replace it with? And he kind of like stumbled, and then he said, well, I have a concept for a plan for how he'd replace it. What? What? I want you all to think about this a second. Let's say your boss gives you an assignment, says to you, I need this done by Friday. Friday rolls around, and she says, so you finish that project I asked for? And you say, well, no, ma'am, I haven't actually started, but I do have a concept of a plan. Or, you know, we're here in Cheyenne High School. We got some high school kids here. You should try that on one of your teachers. You know, like, papers due date rolls around, everybody's turning it in, you don't have yours. I say, well, I do have a concept for a paper. What? How's that going to go over? If it wouldn't work for you, why should it work for the President of the United States? But the good news is, Kamala Harris doesn't have the concepts of a plan. She's got an actual plan to make your life better. She got a plan to bring down the cost of things like groceries. She'll go after corporations that are jacking up prices, just like she went after big banks and for-profit colleges when she was Attorney General of California. To lower housing costs, Kamala will cut red tape and work with state and local governments as well as the private sector to build 3 million new homes. She has a concrete plan to do that, and then she'll give first-time homebuyers up to $25,000 to help with a down payment. That is a concrete plan to help solve the issue of housing affordability. To lower health care costs, Kamala already worked with Joe Biden, Jackie Rosen, members of Congress who are here to take on the drug companies, bring down the cost of insulin, hearing aids, more than 50 prescription drugs. And as president, she'll never stop working to limit out-of-pocket costs and protect your care. And instead of giving more tax cuts to folks who don't need them, to billionaires, Kamala will give a tax cut to 100 million middle-class and working people here in America. That's who Kamala is. That's what she stands for, not concepts of a plan, actual plans. Now, I got some more points. If you challenge Donald Trump or his VP nominee, Vance, if you challenge them on, well, these concepts don't seem to make much sense and nobody really understands them and the economists tell you they're not going to work, if you challenge them, they'll fall back on one answer. It does not matter what it is, housing, healthcare, education, paying for the bills. One answer, blame the immigrants. Don't boo. What did I tell you? He wants you to believe that if you elect him, he will just round up whoever he wants and ship them out, and all your problems will be solved. Now, let me tell you something, because I've been working on this for a long time. We have a real issue at the border. We are a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. We have to make sure the system works the way it's supposed to so that we've got legal immigration, which built our nation, where we've got folks like the DACA folks that I worked on behalf of to make sure that they grew up here, that we give them pathways to citizenship. But we also have to have an orderly border. We have to have it fair. There's nothing, that's the truth. We have to fix some aspects of it that are broken. Sí se puede. But when I hear Donald Trump talk, I keep on, he's very quick to say to Kamala, well, you were vice president for 4 years. Dude, you were president for 4 years. As I recall, you were up there in the Oval Office. So if rounding up and deporting millions of desperate people, many of them who are women and children, if that's the answer to everything, well, why is it that the number of undocumented immigrants were basically the same when he left office as when he took office? He didn't solve the problem, and I'll tell you why. Because he does not have a real plan. He has a concept of a plan, and it's a mean and ugly plan designed to foster resentment and divide people. You know what would actually bring order to the border? Help fix our immigration system? There was a bipartisan deal just a few months ago. Kamala Harris supported it, even though it was written by one of the most conservative Republicans in Congress. That same bill, Donald Trump purposely told Republicans in Congress, do not vote for it. Not because he thought necessarily that it won't work, but because he wanted to keep the issue to campaign on. He thinks fear-mongering is how he's going to win this election. We do not need a president who will make problems worse just to make his politics better. We need a president who actually cares about solving problems and making your life better, and that's what Kamala Harris will do. And in order for her to do it, she is going to need a Senate full of public servants like Jackie Rosen. This is something that sometimes folks forget about. We need Kamala Harris in the White House. But I can tell you this from experience. You need a team. Presidents are not kings, although Donald Trump would like to think they are. You need a Congress that supports what you want to get done. Jackie has a long record of looking out for middle-class families, of taking on special interests to bring down costs. She's one of the most bipartisan members of the Senate. She doesn't care which party you're from. If you've got a good idea to make life better for the people of Nevada, she'll work with you. She's for it. That's the kind of person we need in Washington. That's who you need alongside our other outstanding senator from Nevada, Catherine Cortez Masto. The kind of person who's going to roll up their sleeves and help Kamala get things done. Folks who share our values, who want to move the country forward and not back. And one of those values is freedom. So let me talk about that just for a second. Because I don't think we've ever heard an election with candidates who understand freedom so differently. For Donald Trump and his cronies, freedom means just getting away with stuff. It's like he said in the middle of the pandemic. I don't know if people remember this. I remembered it because I was paying attention. People were dying, our hospitals were overrun. He's the President of the United States, and at one point he said, I don't take any responsibility at all. I am not sure any American president has ever uttered those words. But that's his idea of freedom. I do what I want, and I'm not responsible for anything. Well, we've got a broader idea of freedom. We believe in the freedom to provide for our families if we're willing to work. The freedom to breathe clean air and drink clean water and send our kids to school without worrying if they'll come home. We believe the true freedom gives each of us the right to make decisions about our own life. And it requires us to recognize other people have the freedom to make different choices than the choices we might make. You know, even on the most divisive issues, I've always said there are good people of conscience on both sides of the abortion divide. I respect anybody whose faith tells them that this is not something they believe in. I understand that. But if we believe in freedom, then we should at least agree that such a deeply personal decision should be made by the woman whose body is involved and not by politicians. And it's been fascinating to watch Donald Trump because I think he's starting to figure out, well, maybe this isn't a popular issue for me. So, and he'll say anything, right? So now he's trying to tie himself into a pretzel on this issue. When he first ran for president, he said he would support punishing women who got an abortion. A few weeks ago, he told a bunch of women, I will be your protector. Listen, I'll tell you how he protected you. He handpicked 3 of the Supreme Court judges who overturned Roe versus Wade. He went out there and bragged about it. Now there are Trump abortion bans in 20 states, many of them with no exception for rape or incest. And he's out there saying, everybody wanted it this way. No, they didn't. So Donald Trump may be confused. But let's be clear about what's at stake here. If you send Jackie Rosen back to the Senate, she and Catherine Cortez Masto will vote to restore the reproductive freedom that women had for nearly 50 years. And if Congress passes that bill, Kamala Harris will sign it into law. And here in Nevada, you don't have to wait, because abortion, reproductive freedom, is actually on the ballot. You have a chance to vote yes on question 6 for reproductive freedom and keep women, not politicians, in control of their personal medical decisions. It's an example of how, as frustrating as politics can be sometimes, elections really do matter. Listen, I understand how, especially in today's climate, politics just seems so mean and nasty, and there's so many lies floating around, and people get on these doom scrolls on TikTok, and it's like, oh man, that's terrible. Oh, that's worse. That's terrible. Oh, my God. And so you get frustrated, and it feels like nothing's going to work. But the truth is, when you vote, it matters. It can make your life better, or it can make it worse. Sometimes I talk to folks who don't think it's going to make a difference whether Kamala Harris or Donald Trump wins. Yeah, no, you guys know people like this, right? I mean, they're not bad people. They're just like, politics, it's not going to make any difference in my life. They figure it's not going to have an impact. And I constantly have to remind them, yes, whoever's president, they're not going to end poverty overnight. They're not going to end racism. Right? You're not suddenly going to not have to go to your job and listen to your boss. Things are not going to suddenly be perfect. But you know what? It makes a difference. When I passed the Affordable Care Act, almost 50 million people got health care that they didn't have before. That made a difference in their lives. More than 50 million people with pre-existing conditions can no longer be denied coverage or charged more. It made a difference to them. Listen, when I was president, I'll give you just one other example. And I want you to use this example when you're talking to folks who say it's not going to make any difference. I had been talking to scientists for a while, and so in my last year in office, we put together a playbook for how to deal with the eventuality of a pandemic. Because scientists had been saying with globalization and travel, etc., rising populations, that at some point there was going to be a pandemic. And so I said to my team, I said, we got to have a plan, just like you do for hurricanes or tornadoes or natural disasters. So we put together this whole playbook. And we practiced the playbook. We'd get all the agencies. This is how we're going to respond. This is how to make sure that the public health systems in all the states are working. Here's how we're going to think about the schools. And when Donald Trump came in, we gave over this playbook to them. And but the point is, he ignored it. And 3 years later, a pandemic hits. Now, I want to really be fair on this, but I want everybody to pay attention. No matter who was president at the time, this was going to be a problem. This was a generational pandemic. People were going to get sick. People were going to die. We didn't have a vaccine right away. Businesses were going to have to shut down for a while. Travel was going to be restricted. But if you look at a country like Canada, their per capita death rate was 40% lower than it was here in the United States. So just do the math. That's more than 400,000 people. People's grandmothers, people's fathers, people's moms, who would have been alive if Donald Trump had just paid attention and tried to follow the plan that we gave him. It might have been somebody in your family that could have been impacted. So if somebody tells you that this doesn't make a difference, having somebody competent, somebody who cares about you, who listens to ordinary people, who listens to people who are experts in these areas, if you hear somebody say it doesn't matter, it does matter. And at some point, it will make a difference to them. And if that's not enough, then remind them that, you know what, this election is also about more than policies, it's about values. And it is about character. Some of you know, I grew up, I didn't have a father in the house. My parents divorced when I was 2. I met my dad once for about a month. But I did have a lot of people around me. A stepfather, my grandparents, teachers, coaches, most of all my mom, who taught me the difference between right and wrong. Showed me what it meant to have integrity, to be honest, to be responsible, to work hard, to treat other people the way I wanted to be treated. And most of you grew up the same way. And I'll tell you the truth. You know, when I was a teenager, young adult, I didn't always live up to those values. I made mistakes, but I tried to learn from them. And as I got older, I continued to benefit from people who reinforced those values. Obviously, my wife, Michelle, but also friends and neighbors and coworkers. And I'll give you an example. Being here in Vegas makes me think about my friend Harry Reid, who was the president of the Senate for a long time. And he was a proud Democrat. He didn't shy away from bare-knuckle politics. Right? One day, a staffer handed him a draft of remarks in which he referred to himself as a former boxer, and he was editing it, and he crossed out former. He was a tough guy. He was 70 years old at the time, but but he refused to see politics as just this battle between good and evil. He'd work with Republicans. He'd work with people who didn't agree with him. He understood we're all a bundle of contradictions. We all got flaws, but despite our individual differences, it's our collective humanity, what we have in common, that makes a difference. That's what makes a country great. The point is, he had values, he had character. One of the most disturbing things about this election, about Trump's rise in politics, we seem to have set aside the values that so many of us were taught. A few weeks ago, one of the deadliest hurricanes in American history. President Biden, Vice President Harris, they're down meeting with local officials, comforting families, making sure aid is in place. Donald Trump and his running mate made up stories about the Biden administration withholding aid, giving it to undocumented immigrants, not giving it to Republicans, just making this stuff up. Even Republicans on the ground, even MAGA Republicans on the ground, said it wasn't true. So my question is, when did that become okay? How can it be okay? It doesn't matter where you stand on the issues. Doesn't matter what your party is. That kind of behavior is not okay. If your coworkers acted like that, they wouldn't be your coworkers very long. If you had a family member like that, you might still love them, but you wouldn't put them in charge of nothing. And yet, when Donald Trump repeatedly lies or cheats or shows utter disregard for our Constitution or just insults people, when he calls service members who died in battle losers, or fellow citizens vermin, or the enemy within, people make excuses for it. They say, well, he's not serious. He's not. Everything a president says is serious. Everything that somebody who's aspiring to office is listened to. And people make excuses for it. They think, well, it's funny, or it's okay as long as our side wins. And I've noticed this especially among some men who seem to think Trump's behavior of bullying people or putting them down is somehow a macho sign of strength. I'm telling you, that's not what real strength is. Never has been. Real strength's working hard. Real strength's carrying a heavy load without complaining. Real strength is about taking responsibility for your actions. Real strength is telling the truth even when it's inconvenient. Real strength is about helping those who have less or need some help, standing up for those who can't always stand up for themselves. That's what we should want in our sons and our daughters. That's what I want to see in the President of the United States. And the good news is, you have candidates to vote for in this election that have demonstrated that kind of character, who know what real strength looks like, who will set a good example and do the right thing and leave this country better for it. Nevada, that's the choice in this election. It's not just policies on the ballot. It's about who we are and what we stand for. So whether this election is making you feel excited or scared or hopeful or frustrated or anything in between, do not sit back and hope for the best. Get off your couch and vote. Put down your phones and vote. Vote for Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States. And Tim Walz is the next vice president of the United States. Vote for Jackie Rosen and this whole incredible Nevada Democratic ticket. Help your friends and family and neighbors and co-workers do the same. Because if enough of us make our voices heard, we will leave no doubt about the outcome of this election. We will leave no doubt about who we are and what America stands for. And together we will keep building a country that is more fair and more just and more equal and more free. That is our job, Nevada. Let's go get it. That's what we're going to do. I love you. God bless you. Let's go vote.